I think our leader, Trudeau, I don't think I've ever heard him say a true word.
Everyone has an opinion about Canadian federal politics.
Oh, yeah.
With our allies this week here in Italy, we work together to address the many different challenges our world is facing today. With wars in the Ukraine and in the Middle East, with climate change affecting our lives, we need responsible leadership. This is what Canada is here to offer. We also discussed economic opportunities that will help all of us advance economic development and create good jobs around the world, including in Canada. Summits like these are an important moment to coordinate our efforts with friends and allies, and they matter to Canadians because security, prosperity, and stability benefit us all. On security, President Zelensky joined us here in Italy this week, and I made it clear that Canada will keep supporting Ukraine until victory. I've long advocated for new and innovative ways to support Ukraine and impose costs on Russia for its invasion. 2 years ago, Canada suggested freezing Russian central bank assets. That's exactly what the G7 did. Now, to bring forward the future interest earnings from frozen Russian sovereign assets, the G7 will provide loans to Ukraine. As the G7 finalizes the delivery of the extraordinary revenue acceleration loans, Canada stands prepared to contribute $5 billion Canadian in funding. These loans would provide Ukraine with approximately $69 billion Canadian as it continues to defend its freedom, sovereignty, and territorial integrity. On top of this, Canada also announced new sanctions on 11 individuals and 16 entities who supply key technology and electrical components in support of Russia's war of aggression.
A choice for him to implement extremist policies that have taken the lives of 2,500 British Columbians every single year. Since the NDP has asked him to reverse course on his and formerly their radical policy, 22 British Columbians have died of drug overdoses. But he continues to allow those drugs to kill the people in our hospitals and on our public transit. When will we put an end to this wacko policy by this wacko Prime Minister?
No. Armored medical evacuation vehicles to support Ukraine's armed forces. This is the first shipment of 50 armored combat support vehicles, all built in Canada in London, Ontario. Of course, we know that war is not only ravaging Ukraine. This week, with G7 allies, we also discussed the crisis in the Middle East. Canada is extremely concerned by the scale of the humanitarian catastrophe in Gaza. Canada has been clear on calling for an immediate ceasefire, for the release of all hostages, for significant and sustained increase in humanitarian assistance, and to an enduring end to this crisis. So far, our country has provided $165 million in humanitarian funding for things like food, water, and medical assistance. We all need peace and stability in the Middle East, and Canada will continue to support efforts to achieve a just and lasting peace in the region based on a two-state solution. Climate change is having an impact on food security. So to support vulnerable countries, especially in the Americas, Sub-Saharan Africa, and Asia, we're allocating $200 million to the International Fund for Agriculture Development. In the Indo-Pacific region, we're helping mobilize private capital toward climate change mitigation and adaptation projects by delivering a $360 million repayable contribution to the Asian Development Bank. This was a very productive summit. I want to thank again our Italian hosts. We're focused on fairness for everyone, on creating good jobs and economic growth, and Canada will, of course, continue to be a voice for peace, stability, and democracy. I look forward to the Summit for Peace in Ukraine in Switzerland today and tomorrow, where we'll work with partners on a plan to achieve a comprehensive, just, and lasting peace for Ukraine. And I very much look forward to hosting next year's G7 summit in Canada, in Kananaskis, Alberta. Next year will be the 50th year since the first summit and the second held in beautiful Kananaskis. Can't wait to share all the glory of the Canadian Rockies with our friends and allies.
20 minutes, one question, one follow-up. First question goes to the Canadian press.
Hi, Prime Minister. Italy said ahead of the summit that Ukraine and Gaza would be discussed with equal importance, but the G7 leaders announced a clear deliverable with the Ukraine loan, swift action. Why was there no deliverable on Gaza, given the humanitarian crisis you say there is?
The G7 leaders are united in wanting to see the implementation of the US and UN peace plan, the immediate ceasefire, the return of all hostages, and we underscored repeatedly the need to continue delivering humanitarian assistance, as we all are. Canada is indeed one of the significant donors to UNRWA and humanitarian aid in the region, in the crisis. We will continue, including continuing to work with outreach partners like we did in the afternoon yesterday on this important issue. We need to bring together not just the region but the world in calling for that two-state solution and implementing the steps towards it, and that's exactly what we'll continue to do.
Pope Francis has found himself in controversy recently over using a derogatory term to refer to gay men. During your meeting with the Pope, did you bring up the issue of LGBTQ rights?
We talked about AI, we talked about a range of things, but we didn't talk about that.
Next question.
$5 billion loan guarantee for Ukraine. You're putting Canadian taxpayers on the hook for a lot of money here. How confident are you that that money will be recouped? And can you talk about kind of the risks of that not happening?
Russia invaded Ukraine and has caused billions of dollars worth of damage to infrastructure, to individuals, and on top of killing too many Ukrainians. We think that Russia should be paying for that, and that's why the freezing of Russian assets and the use of the profits from those assets to support Ukraine in its fight against Russia is the right thing to do.
On the summit that you're going to in Switzerland later today, Joe Biden won't be there. He's going to a campaign event in California instead. Obviously, Vladimir Putin's not going to be there. What are your expectations for what could come out of this, and is it really going to make any tangible difference to this?
There are close to 100 countries that have chosen to be part of this peace process. We need to see peace and stability in Ukraine as we need to see it around the world, and this is part of the effort that we all undertake to engage. I'm going to be focusing in particular on the issue of children stolen from Ukraine by Russia who need to be returned.
Good morning, Ashley Burke, CBC News. During the interaction that you had with India's Prime Minister yesterday, who initiated that interaction? And you mentioned that you said that you need to work on important issues. What are those issues you raised? And what did Modi say in response? I
think you can understand I'm not going to get into the details of this issue. There's important but sensitive issues that we need to follow up on. But this was a commitment to work together in the coming times to deal with some very important issues.
Did Modi give you any sort of assurance that he will cooperate with the investigation into the killing of a Canadian Sikh activist? And did you raise that?
Like I said, I'm not going to get into it further, but there are important issues that we need to work on, and we will.
Prime Minister, good morning. Rafi Bajikani on CBC News. Are you going to invite Narendra Modi to the G7 in Canada next year if he keeps denying the allegations of his government's involvement in the killing of Hardeep Singh Nijjar and the foreign interference allegations into Canadian elections?
I can appreciate the keenness with which Canadians are looking forward to next year's G7. However, Italy continues to be the president of this G7 for the rest of this year, and I look forward to working with Prime Minister Maloney and all my G7 partners on the broad range of issues that we've talked about. I will have more to say about next year's G7 when we assume the presidency next year.
Okay, and speaking of Italy, how can you so strongly advocate for abortion back home and then come here and put your name to a final communique that avoids the word entirely in watering down the language? And will you raise this with Giorgia Meloni in your upcoming bilateral meeting?
There are clear commitments in the communique to defending sexual and reproductive rights. There is important work that we're going to continue to do. Obviously, this matters deeply to Canada and Canadians, and we will continue to defend sexual health and reproductive rights, as well as women's rights, as well as LGBT rights everywhere necessary. Il y a eu des engagements clairs dans le communiqué du G7 sur les droits et la santé reproductive, sur les droits des femmes et sur la communauté LGBT. On va continuer en tant que pays, en tant que G7, d'être là pour défendre les droits de tout le monde.
Hi, Prime Minister Brian Platt with Bloomberg. Prime Minister Modi was invited here. He played a pretty prominent role yesterday. He was center stage in the family photo. Given the accusations that you've made in the U.S. court case, has he paid any diplomatic price for this? Because it seems like he was welcomed here with open arms.
I think there is a clear understanding that we need to continue to engage across and around the world with various partners, even as we highlight challenges, as we stand up for the rule of law and the principles that drive the G7. We need to engage with a broad range of partners, and that's exactly what we did during the outreach session yesterday.
I also wanted to ask you about French President Macron has talked about building a coalition of countries to put trainers in Ukraine, military trainers potentially. What is Canada's view on that, and have you talked about that with the French president?
During this G7, we had many conversations about Ukraine, about how we need to continue to hold Russia to account for its illegal invasion, to make sure that Russia actually pays for the damage that it has done to Ukraine, the murder of so many civilians. We're going to continue to make sure Ukraine is held to account. Russia is held to account for what it's doing in Ukraine.
I'm Mr. Trudeau. Mackenzie Gray with Global News. Are there currently any MPs in your caucus that are named in the NCCOP report to be wittingly or semi-wittingly participants in foreign interference?
The issue of foreign interference is one that this government has taken incredibly seriously since 2015. We brought in the National Security and Intelligence Committee of Parliamentarians over the objections of the Conservative Party and indeed the strenuous resistance of the Harper government for years. We brought in a renewed NCIRA for oversight over our national security instances, and we created specific bodies of experts, of top civil servants to ensure the integrity of our elections. We've also called a number of different reports, including an ongoing report on foreign interference that we're working with right now to see how they can follow up on the NCCOP report.
We've heard from Mr. Singh and Ms. May. They have both said that there are no members of their party who are named in the report. So I'll ask you again, are there any current Liberal caucus members named in the NCCOP report that are wittingly or semi-wittingly participants in foreign interference?
I will allow Mr. Singh and Ms. May to speak for themselves.
Last question.
Hi, it's Annie Bertrand-Oliver with CTV National News. Just going back on that, but why can't you say any more? Singh and May have both talked about this report and provided substantially more details than you have. So why are you unable to provide any details about what is in this NCCOP report?
I think it's important that Canadians have confidence in our ability collectively as a democracy to defend the institutions and the processes around our elections and our democracy. That is why officials are engaging with the foreign interference inquiry to see how they can follow up on the NCCOP report. Je pense que c'est important que les Canadiens puissent avoir confiance dans notre capacité de contrer l'ingérence étrangère. C'est pour ça que nous travaillons avec la Commission sur l'ingérence étrangère pour voir comment ils peuvent faire un suivi sur le rapport du Comité des parlementaires.
You're talking about how Canadians should have confidence in the work that's being done around foreign interference and to prevent that from happening. But Dominic LeBlanc, your own minister, has said that the government disagreed with the committee's interpretation of some of the intelligence. So what are some of the problems with this intelligence, and do you agree with that assessment?
We made clear some of the concerns we have with the way the NCCOP drew its conclusions. I think that is an important part of the process. The NCCOP, the National Security Intelligence Committee of Parliamentarians, exists so that parliamentarians from all parties can have full access to the work that our national security agencies are doing. That's an important step that wouldn't have happened if the Conservative Party had remained in power. We were able to create that over the objections of Pierre Poilievre and the Conservative Party. So we welcome the work that they're doing, but of course when it comes to intelligence, there are important bodies like the Foreign Interference Inquiry that is tasked to look at this, and we will continue our work with them.
That concludes today's press conference. Thank you, Prime Minister.
So gang, that's another wild one right there. I'm not gonna try to tell you what to think about what you just saw. You're a Canadian, you can make up your own mind, but I do want you to come back and watch some more of the wild videos that we collect. We've got this network happening now, and also if you're interested in a live chat in a fun stream, we watch the question periods daily, all of them. It's a great community. It's a fun chat. Come check us out. Like, subscribe, get notified, all that fun stuff. Comment. I love the comments. And especially just come back. I just want you to come back. Not going to try to sell you anything. Here we go. We're just learning about Canadian federal politics right here. Question Period Canada. We have 1 million questions, almost no answers. But we'll be showing you the videos, so like, subscribe, get notified, share, all those fun things. Check out one of the other videos. We've got a good thing going on here, liking and learning, and sharing with you. That's what we're doing right here. Question Period Canada. Catch you next video. It'll be wacky.